A lot of people dream about building a career in the United States, but very few actually understand what it really takes. Today, I'm talking to someone based in Los Angeles, working tech, SaaS, and developer relations, while also building his own personal project. This episode is not just about his career, it's about understanding the US market, the culture, and the real opportunities behind it. Half, welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on today, Julia.
Let's start from the beginning, right? How did your journey lead you to where you are today, working in Los Angeles?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. Again, appreciate you having me. And my journey really started unconventionally. I went to school for politics. And so,
Really?
yeah, I did. And so for a while there, I really thought I would be a politician. And it's funny because my boss now is really pushing that card again. But I don't know. There was something along the way that I just sort of fell out of love with. Like I felt politics was very disingenuous to the average person. And as I studied it more and completed my senior seminars and everything, it really became something different than what I thought it was. And so I've segued into sales after school because it's very similar in terms of the skill traits that you need to be successful. When you think about politics and sales, there's a lot of commonalities there. And so I found that sales was a great avenue for me to display my skills that I have. And so that's kind of what got me into sales. And along the way, I have worked various different sales positions, but I think all the time pulling closer and closer to product and engineering. Particularly loving the idea of selling products, proven products, products that work the way that people think they should work. But along that journey, I just kept, as I said, inching closer and closer to cooler technology. In my last position, I worked with beauty and aesthetics equipment. So you think like lasers and things like that,
Yes.
types of cool facials and everything, right? Which was very interesting for a while. But I think you have to be personally invested in those types of treatments to get the most out of it. And I'm not getting a ton of filler or facials every week. And so the interest level kind of ran its course, I think, professionally. And so I got the opportunity to transition over to the company that I'm at now, Fraction, and it has been a breath of fresh air for me. I mean, getting to the heart of tech, really, I feel like I'm in that movie, The Matrix, finally talking to the architect. It's like now I'm really at the heart of how a business builds something from the ground up on the technology side, on the software side, and then gets that out, get that message out to the public or to whoever they're
Sure.
looking to sell to.
Yes, this is so interesting because when I met Half, just to people them know about how we met each other, I were in my first event in Los Angeles, and I met him there, and it was really nice because I was interested about where he works right now. He will talk about more about where he works, but I was talking with him, and I was like, okay, he's in a good position to sell his work, to sell the company, to sell the product because he speaks so well. It's really interesting how he communicates with me. So I really like that, and I didn't know that you did sales and you had this overground. So it's really interesting had how we have this opportunity to learn in our life and where it's finished, where we are right now, right? So it's really nice. And from your perspective, what makes you being right now in your company, in your positioning? Tell us a little more about where you right now, what you sell right now.
Sure, yep. So today, I am a developer relations associate on the Fraction team. And so what we do is we work with companies that are essentially trying to build or scale software. And if I am to take a step back for a moment, the profile of how we help companies has really changed over a brief period of time as we are riding the AI wave right now. And so over a year ago, closer to a year and a half ago, when I joined this company, the idea was that we would sell this talent pool that we have of strong engineers, right? And so that was what the business was, is you could talk to us and you could secure the time of an engineer that specializes in XYZ. That was 80% of our business and 20% was marketing. We also helped a lot with marketing. And the model was really stood up by my co-founders at a previous company they owned called Hidden Levers. They leveraged this fractional approach to the talent pool to really fulfill a lot of technical needs on their team. And so fast forward to 2022, they started Fraction on the heels of an exit to a company called Orion. They sold for somewhere in the neighborhood of $140 million or so, but started Fraction thinking correctly that, hey, there are going to be other companies that need top level talent, but maybe not full time, as most startups can't really afford traditionally anyway to begin with. And so
Yes.
that's where the company came from. But as we continue to ride the AI wave, the way we interact with our clients became different. So it goes from just, hey, we have somebody who could plug into your team to today, this idea of, well, tell us a little bit about what you're building. We can actually just build that out for you, right? And so that's where we've seen this movement over a very short period of time go to, is now Fraction is positioned more as a software factory, if you will. We will take this approach to owning the entire process end to end, or some facet of the process. We do have clients that may say, hey, we just have some automation QA needs or whatever the case may be, or we want you guys to handle production. But there are many clients that rely on us from end to end, right? And so we are able to do that with a scaled down team versus when I initially joined Fraction because of the speed at which you can work with AI now. And so I think our team has been able to scale down over 20% from last year. Oh, no, actually, excuse me. I think we had about 100 developers in the field last year. We're working with about 65 currently.
Oh,
But I meant to say that our gross margins have increased 20%. So we're able to do more with less because of how quickly AI is moving. And so you no longer really need this large
yes.
team of engineers, right? Now, what a traditional team looks like is one high-level architect and, one project manager or product manager, and then a set of agents that complements exactly what it is that the client is trying to build. So
For sure.
that's what a team looks like today.
Yes, this is so nice because just a question, do you think it's hard to find these people like hard skills, soft skills to be in the company with the team?
That's a great question. I think a lot of the people that we find, it's you have to be in the right network. I'm not going to say it's very hard, but you have to be in the right network. A lot of the folks we
Nice.
work with have come to us. I think sometimes off of referral from knowing our CEO Praveen, or just knowing our company, having that name. But one thing that's interesting about the talent pool at Fraction is a lot of these individuals really want to do this work. And what I mean by that is they have something else that they're doing too. And this is in addition to that. And so a lot of the folks in the pool are actually founders who are bootstrapping their own business. There's a lot of technical minded founders. And I think the thought process for them is just, hey, I can work on projects that actually interest me, do things I want, and at the same time make money towards my own project.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of folks like that, but there are also people in our pool who have a traditional job, maybe doing some coding, for a company that, people may know or have heard of, but it's not fulfilling 40 hours a week. The work is, much below their level. It's pretty easy. They're knocking it out, right? And so there are those people who are like, hey, I'm looking for more, right? For whatever reason. Maybe I'm getting married or growing a family or just bored, right? And so I think that's the combination that you see in the talent pool is we don't really work with people who are just looking to do part-time work. Those people may walk away from you if they find something full time. We prefer to work with people who already have the thing that's driving them and they're looking for something else. Those are the top level people. And then the deals that we do are basically situated on an outcome basis nowadays, as opposed to just paying for somebody's hours. And so that also structures itself towards really being attractive to a high-end developer. If you are I guess I should say, if you are confident in your skill set, you don't really care about the hours. You just want to
Yes,
be able to say, I'll complete the project when I can complete it, right? And
for
so
sure.
the model has lent itself to bring out the best talent, I think.
That's so nice. In your speak, I noticed two things. In Brazil, where I'm from, we usually don't measure our price with our hours. So here in North America, it's really different. And it's interesting because in Brazil, we think about that too. You just work whenever it takes you and
Yeah.
it's everything okay. And the second point, it's really similar. It's kind of the the type of people that we want with the team. It's really hard to find in Brazil actually, but when you find it's the perfect person, and it's great for the team. So it's really nice. And this is the part of my question for you. From your perspective, what makes the California market different from other places? What do you see in the California
Sure.
market, especially in Los Angeles where you are?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, the US market in general can be different, certainly from, Brazil.
Yeah.
So even inside of the United States, as you point out, um, with California being essentially its own large branded business, its own large economy. I think the fifth largest economy in the world now. So I would say in that California market, in this California market, one big difference is the bias towards action. Um, Tech people, I think here are more willing to start before everything is fully figured out. That's a huge differentiator. So there's a lot of opportunity created because of that, especially when you think about places like Silicon Valley. But it also means there's a lot more noise. There's a lot more risk, and not everything works the way that you want it to, right? But I think that's the biggest thing that makes California a little bit more unique.
Yes, for sure. And you are in the tech and SaaS space. How do you see the market evolving right now? What do you think about the future for this
Sure.
technology and everything?
I think it's a great question. We could literally do 5 episodes just on that. Like,
Yes.
there's so much to unpack there. But in essence, I think, the big fear as far as AI goes in the tech world is that we're going to be replaced, right? Like we are people who work with clients to complete their projects, right? And so there is some nominal fear out there that pretty soon the robots will just do everything, right?
Yes.
I think the way that I'm seeing it right now is we're not quite there yet, guys. We're not there yet. What we can see is that AI is great, but it has to be driven correctly. And at best, it's only going to get you 95% of the way. You really do need, that human touch to really, complete certain aspects of proper builds, right? To make sure that we have a stable environment that is secure, that is working properly. And so I mean that to say that I think in terms of my outlook for right now, we're still involved in the process. We're still here, but that work looks different. It looks more like fraction as opposed to, the regular, I guess, tech world today. And what I mean by that is you only need the human for so many parts of it or so many or so small parts of it that it becomes a thing to where we can now leverage one person over more projects, if that makes sense, because the lift is just so small over each project, right? And so
Yes.
The way we work with clients will change, but I do think that the work is still there. You can work with many more people if the humans are only having to be a part of, this small process, right? So we can continue to grow our footprint into the environment, if you will, for quite a while, because I think that people are going to continue to build. Now, that's the thing. You don't have to buy software, or why would you, in essence, pay, somebody a monthly fee for use of their software? You can just build it, right? And so we go to these conferences where, somebody will ask really quickly, like, well, what do you do? And it's like, oh, I can explain to you really quickly. I want to put everybody here out of business, right? Like these people want you to pay for their software.
Yes.
We're saying right now it's advantageous to just build it yourself, right? And so we can be the partner that does that, and even go so far as to say, well, let's continue the relationship. Some companies have us on retainer, where it's like, okay, as these needs continue to develop, now you have a partner who can help you investigate what does that look like, continuing to infuse AI into our business model, particularly if you're an industry that is, industry regulated, or I should say heavily regulated.
That's a perfect view because um, when you understand what people think about technology or AI when we talk about it, it's really interesting that they think that they can do everything that they want, but they need the right help. Like
Yes.
we can do everything alone with just AI. We actually can do a lot of things, but not. With I don't know, with more authenticity, with more dedicated time, so it's we really need help. And you talking about with a salesman and someone that is in touch with everyone,
Sure.
how important is networking in the US and for you too in Los Angeles?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question too, because I think that's what sales looks like today.
Yes.
That's really where it's going, as opposed to, cold calling people and just, hoping that you run into somebody who wants what you're
I
selling.
totally agree.
Not really that anymore, right? And
Yeah.
should have never been that, I could argue, right? But where we're at today is this more targeted approach, especially when we think about how we approach things here at Fraction in terms of, interacting with our potential clients. It's, the idea is that we would do more networking, as opposed to relying on, inbound leads from the internet that can be all over the place, right? Let's be intentional. So let's go to events that are geared towards where we can find people that look like our clients, and let's interact with businesses, right, that are actually trying to build something right now or actually trying to move something forward right at this moment. And so I think, as I mentioned when I met you guys last week, we were all asking, what are we hoping to get out of this or why we were there? And so I was lamenting that I'm hoping to begin this relationship, right? I don't think anybody wakes up and says, hey, I'm going to build an app today. And then you
Mm.
go find somebody online and then you like give them the credit card today and you're working with them. You have to build up that trust, right? And so what does that
Yes.
look like on the sales side? It's, meeting somebody, fostering that relationship after the initial meeting, whether that's a conference or a networking event, right? And then just staying in touch, right? So
Constancy.
what it looks like is just caring, right? Like actually like being invested in their business, following them on LinkedIn, keeping up with what's going on. Are they hiring? Do they have new initiatives? Really, right? Like that's more important than hiring. What direction is
Yes.
the company going, right? And so I think that sales today is um in terms of where do you meet people genuinely like that. And then when you meet the people, the other side of sales today is it's not a pitch. It's not, I mean, it can be, but it's not really a pitch. It's just speaking to the need, right? And so a lot of times what we are able to do is even with just a sentence, you set up a call and say, "Hey, we want to build out these features on our application, or we want to build this application from scratch." Our company's empowered, folks like myself to come in and vibe code a prototype for you, right?
Yes.
Show it to you, right? Like that's not something I would have thought I would have been able to do before. But that's where you have to be a sales set. You have to help the client envision what they want because there are so many people saying, we can help you, we can help you, we can help you. And so I like that for us, it starts with a genuine relationship and then some proof of life, right? Like, hey, let's show you at a moment's notice where this could go and kind of go from there, right? And earn some trust.
Yes, that's really nice. And when I met Half in the event, I was really interesting because he has a personal project too, and it's about sports. So tell me a little bit more. How does that connect with your professional life, or if it doesn't, I don't know.
Sure. No, I appreciate that question. Yeah. So I do have a podcast called Tiger Bomb Sports Audio Entertainment. That's the name of the company that I started. I do a show called The Process, which is about fantasy football. And so it's just helping anybody who is either a novice or somebody who is a little bit more intermediate or maybe even, veteran level per
In the
se.
process.
Yeah, really helping their hone their process, right? And understanding what winning plays look like on football Sunday. And a lot of fantasy sports today are tied into online sports betting or playing these fantasy games on certain sites. And so I try to bring or leverage, I should say, I try to leverage this realistic take for the person. How do we avoid the traps of those sites? How do we play and have fun? How do we play and not lose? And so that looks less riskier if you follow the process. And that looks maybe a little more boring, but I would argue winning is fun. And so we, I do a lot of teaching in terms of where you can go to get the edge, whether that's going to be playing online, playing with strangers in the league you don't know people, or even if you just want to have some fun and win your home league with your friends and family and get bragging rights. And so
Yes.
that's kind of,
It's your passion, right?
exactly, yeah. And so that's, a part of what has shaped me, that sport of football, just playing football in high school and learning a lot from coaches in terms of being, growing into a man and understanding how to interact with people and look them in the eye and shake hands and things like that. And so I've learned a lot from football and that's where that passion comes from. And I still continue it today through the podcast and also through coaching 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds in terms of their starting their football journey too. So I think where it intersects with fraction in my work is quite interesting. I don't think I would have known this before, but a lot, sometimes building a successful company, like a tech company or any company really, it's just like building a successful football team. And so a lot of what I do on my podcast is diagnose what is making this football team successful or what does this team need to do to be successful. And it's the same thing on the sales side for Fraction. We're just diagnosing what this team could do to be more successful with their product. Where can we help leverage our services, right? And so there's some parallels, I think, in terms of what the makeup of a good team looks like and the makeup of a good company looks like. And I've been enjoying exploring that and talking a little bit about Fraction on the podcast when I have a chance to.
It's really interesting because we do the same analysis in the business or in technology like
Sure.
in football, right?
Right.
So it's really nice. I'm thinking here how you choose a player, how you choose a movement, and you need to be strategic, right?
Right. And you need to, yes, you're exactly right. You have to be strategic. And to win, you have to execute, right? And so to bring it back to software, I think that's the bottleneck I see with a lot of teams is, we the thought process is there, but things kind of stall when it comes to execution, right? And so I think that's critical in both worlds. Can you actually execute the game plan? And so that's where we come into play. I think fraction can be looked at as that it's the game plan, right? It's just like my
Yes.
podcast, The Process, right? It's like if you follow, this tried and true way, you will have more success than trying to do it maybe an old way or an out of dated way.
Perfect. And I appreciate that you are in the podcast because here I totally agree that everyone can be a reference in their niche. And
Yep.
you are a reference in your niche. Congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
thinking about that, you are from United States, from California, Los Angeles, and people dream about this life work in US and everything. And what's the reality that they don't see? They uh, actually it's not that way. It's not a dream life. What do you think about it?
Well, it takes hard work to sustain yourself and to stay, right? I've seen so many people move out here. People love to move out to Los Angeles. People love to move out to Hollywood. But the funny thing about living here is your group of friends will change a couple of times because people sometimes move on and move up and they're leaving for a good reason. Sometimes people are leaving because they couldn't cut it, right? And so one thing I would tell people is a tough town. Los Angeles is a tough town to make it in.
Yes.
But if you're willing to work hard, I think there is an avenue. This is also a town, this is a place, Southern California, Silicon Valley. This is a place where hard work is rewarded. I think people are looking for people who work hard. And, to somebody looking to get in, what I would say is get your feet wet, get in wherever you can. Don't worry about, being on the entry level or not, getting into somewhere exactly where you want to be. Just start the process, right? How could somebody come here and be successful? Take that project that will get you here. Take that first work that you need to show another company that you can do the work, right? And so I would say start somewhere and just know that it's not easy, but this town does appreciate hard work.
For sure. And it's not easy. It's what you said. And it's interesting because with AI, people think it's easier to be more expert, I don't know, to be more prepared,
Yeah.
and they don't know actually how it works the market. So it's a balance.
AI is only going to be as good as the prompts you give it. It's only going to be as good as the user, right? It's just
Prompt
a tool.
engineer, yeah.
Exactly. And so we all must be prompt engineers. And so it can be very useful, or it can also, lead you astray again if that use case isn't there, right?
This is complaints the other question that I will give to you. One skill everyone should develop. Do you think it's prompt engineer or do you have another one?
I think people should develop the skill of continuing to lean into technology because it's going to continue to change. And as things change, like we have to be willing to flow with it. Um, Prompt engineering is probably a good idea right now. But that's just today, I don't know. And so I would say on the whole, I would just remain open, like keep seeking that knowledge, keep trying to understand where the forefront of the industry is because that's changing so quickly. And it's one of those things to where you could get, left quickly. Today, you can write code like what used to take you maybe 2 months to write, 5 years ago, you can do in a half an hour, easy.
Yes.
And so I just say that to say you've got to be forward thinking about technology because we're just in this upswing right now where it's just continuing to evolve so quickly.
Yes, it's real. The AI area, it's coming. It's right now, and we need to be in the news, in the tendency to understand the future. So it's really important. And to finishing the podcast, if someone is listening right now and wants to build an international career, a developer career, what is the first real step they should take and what message you let for us?
If somebody wants to build a career, the first real step they should take is, like I said, I think as I mentioned before,
Yeah.
start doing some work, right? Like
Hard
you've got
work.
to start somewhere. And for some people, that may just be finding the right mentor. that might be the first step if you're really at the very beginning stage of the process. And what I mean by that, for example, is when I started my podcast, I was very unsure of what to do. I was very unsure of if I needed an LLC, if I need some other type of organization. I didn't even know much about podcasting equipment. Like I bought this equipment and I was like, oh, I don't even know how to use it now. So I had to put a lot of things together. Once I um, got myself into a position where I could produce a show, then it was like, oh my gosh, well, what do I talk about now in terms of football? Like, how do I do that? And so I say all that to say, I reached out to a gentleman that I did not know at the time. He's an executive at Yahoo Sports, but I just found him in my network in Chicago. I asked him if he, would be open to getting a beer sometime. I said, I am just trying to break in. I don't really know much, and I would just appreciate some advice. And that's exactly what he gave me was some advice. And so for somebody looking for some advice, what I would say is, if you're truly unsure where to start, or if you don't have the opportunity to jump in and do some work, start by finding a good mentor, and that
Nice.
person can help you
This is
begin.
a good tip. Yes, for sure. It's really important to um, go to the way, and if you have mentors, you cut the way, right? I don't know how to express this idea.
No, you got the sentiment correctly.
Perfect.
People want to help, people want to be helpful, right? And so it's just think about it like that way. It's nothing more flattering than reaching out to somebody and said, "Hey, I think you're really smart, really good at what you do. Can you please teach me?" Right? There's not a lot of people who are going to
Don't be
say
afraid.
no to that.
Yes. And
Yeah.
do you want to leave us a message to finish this podcast that it's with incredibly valuable, a lot about of your journey, about your understanding the reality of building a career and the process, that to trust the process, because today I don't think that today you are a podcaster because you want. It's because you trust the process, and right now it makes sense to build one, right?
Yeah, it makes sense for me, just based off of my passion. I think, for anybody, look, I would say my passion and my profession drive each other. You have to find something that finds fulfillment for you on both sides. And so, when I can do my podcast on the weekends and, I can talk football, and I get excited by people replying to my videos on YouTube, reaching me out, commenting or giving me a compliment, or even the people that like have something critical to say. Like it's still funny to me, like, oh my gosh, I affected somebody so much so that they wanted to comment, right? And so, but it creates this excitement, especially when I give winning tips. I feel great about that. But what happens is something weird. I come into work on Monday extremely motivated. It's like I just won the weekend. Like yes, like I advanced in my passion. And so I don't show
It's
up
going on.
exhausted, right? I don't show up tired. Like I'm ready to roll, right? And so it works the other way too, being effective at work, keeping my head in the game, being engaged, and giving that honest effort 100% of the time makes it so that at the end of the week on Friday, when we look back, we've had that success. You brought in those deals, you got those new clients, you set up those new appointments. It breeds this excitement that I then take into the podcast. Then I'm like
Yes.
excited to talk football because we just crushed the week. So I would say my best advice to anybody is you've got to have something that is driving you, and that could be personally, and that could be work too for some people. But for me, it's the podcast, it's that passion, and then balancing it with a position that professionally matches me and my ambition and where I want to go in life. Once you have those two things, then you're just balancing sleep time. That's it.
That's perfect. Yes, I totally agree because you need to do something that you love, and if you have passion that I don't know, if you want to be a football player and you can be a football player, talk about football. It's kind of something that you can similar, right?
Yep.
So it's really nice your advice, and I appreciate a lot this interview. How it was really grateful to you to be here, and I'm really happy with this connection. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. And yes, very, very happy to have connected.
Thank you. So if you're listening to this podcast, don't forget to follow Pode Virar Referência and see you the next episode.